Hey guys, so this is going to be a video about the current marijuana craze, just kind of my thoughts on it, and also I'm going to touch at the very end on just some crypto, just because some of the charts are looking pretty interesting at the moment. So I kind of want to start back at the very beginning, before this run actually started with all the majors as far as CGC, Cron, Tilray, and all those. One of the ones that we were looking at very specifically the day after it had earnings back in April was the CVSI. Obviously, a lot has happened since then, with it going parabolic to 9 plus, which I think just sparked a big interest in that sector much earlier and for much longer than it ever really has in the past. Usually there'd just be some marijuana PRs and some OTCs. They'd move a little bit, and for the most part, it'd be like a 2 or 3 day move, and that would be it. Versus sector wide for longer than a 3 or 4 day run up period. So kind of my thoughts on this are, obviously the CVSI, the legitimacy of that. I'm not going to say it's not investment advice, of course, but, we were looking into it back at 48 cents with, kind of a one-off scenario that they were actually making money. Now, whether or not they're, doing whatever some people say, that's not really what I focus on. I focus on the chart, the action, and, you kind of have to go by what filings come out and all that. So, that kind of started the run. And then the next thing was canopy growth and the investments that are being made into the company as far as on a large scale. This is obviously a name that I've paid attention to for quite some time, even back in the, last year area. And it's made quite the move. So they had the earnings that came out with the announcement in the 30s, and that pretty much set off everything. So you had CGC, you had Tilray, which in my opinion is overvalued. It looks exactly like, and Nate made a good point, it looks exactly like GoPro kind of did. On a little bit longer of a time frame, I think GoPro did it in a matter of 2 or 3 weeks, but nothing really started getting hot until the middle of August. So a lot of these are overvalued, so be careful if you're like investing in these up here. They're all trading vehicles at the moment to me. And then you have Cron, which is overvalued as well. Probably one of the more overvalued ones. I think its float, and don't quote me, is 150 million, which it traded in the matter of a week and a half, and then it rotated the float within another week. So these are all names that people are paying attention to, and the moves are very much, everybody wants to nail the top. But just looking at it objectively, if this was just a chart and I didn't know what was going on, this has the reminiscence of exactly what a big move can do even after this. So I'm not saying this is going to 8, 5, 6. It very likely could. It could also go even higher. Because obviously there's a ton of people that are short a lot of these names, and a lot of them are short size. So, don't think that trying to nail it, which, I tried to do this previous day and, got burned pretty bad. But the thing is let the price action tell you versus just getting on board one side or the other. Let it become a setup that you're familiar with, regardless of what anybody's saying. Make sure it's a setup that you know. And if I just look at specifically Cron objectively, I'm just picking this one out because it's got massive volume. It just broke out over its previous highs from January, and there's shorts in this. So it really won't take much for this thing to do another 50% move or even 100% move from here. I'm not saying it will, but it won't take much. Like even if you pull back to CVSI, just chart comparison, it looks almost the exact same from right here. Obviously, there's different scenarios, different situations, but point being is that these can go higher than you expect. And don't write anything off on any of these moves. One of the other things that paying attention to are a lot of these Canadian companies. A lot of them are starting to pop up on OTC markets with different names. I think some random ones like EEVVF. I think they're going the route of trying to sell cannabis to women only. And there's a lot of other ones that you want to pay attention to. I think the one today is IMLFF. Look at the filings that they're actually having. These chart setups are just the things that I care about. Is they get to this point where the risk reward becomes so blatantly obvious that if you have a long-term time horizon, some of those risk rewards are pretty easy as far as the things that I've done in the past, as far as taking the risk off of, 60 and being patient with some of these names. and that may involve holding through earnings, which I very rarely, if ever, have done. But that's kind of the market that we're in at the moment. Like Emerald Health, same thing. They get these moves going from the bottom, and they can last a lot longer than people expect. So don't discount this, but a lot of these Canadian ones, uh, I'm hesitant to say they're all legit. I want to say some of these are going to be purely, you know, uh, BS in the long run. So just be aware of that. And if you're investing in these, you have to take a completely different approach. But if you're trading in these, there's money to be made, especially on both sides. So just kind of be aware of that. Look through the filings if you're good with that. I'm still not the best at it. I just try to read through what I can digest as quickly as I can, and kind of go from there. Like there's one very specifically that I've looked through the filings. It's in my locale as far as the company that got bought, and it's just one of those ones that I like the name. I like what they're doing. I like that all the specific stuff, but it trades horribly. As far as in the last week, weed's going crazy, and it's kind of done nothing. But the setup is still there that I like as far as risks off of 60 cents. And even as low as 46, then that's kind of the give-up trade. But I can really picture that if this gets anything as far as a move sustained over $1, it can do some crazy moves. Just like with CVSI, I never predicted at 50 cents that this would be $9 in less than a year. I think people would have thought that I was insane, but the way it traded throughout gave you opportunities over and over and over again. There were posts at $1.50 that I liked it under the wash at the 2 breakout right here. There's just different things that you have to take into account, and not just I'm short because it's crazy, or I'm long because it's gonna squeeze. You have to take into account a lot of different factors, and if you're day trading it, those factors are different than if you're investing in it. So the next thing that I'll move into is going to be crypto related. So I'll just spend a really short amount of time on this. So obviously, Bitcoin has actually been very, very resilient at the 6,000 level. Every time in the last year it has tested 6,000, it has gone under, and it's gone right back through. But one of the things that I'm still taking into account is there's still a lot of people hanging around that were even from this run. I truly think that, and I think I said this even during the run-up, that miners are going to have to lose money for a good 6 months. There's going to be people that are going to have to eventually just stop doing what they're doing for mining. I think you'll see difficulty maybe get lower. Oddly enough, the hash rate's going up and up, so I could be completely wrong in that, but I just look at it from the chart and stance of what I want to do. Would I want to just keep taking the risk for a long at 6,000? It's been working so far, but until this actually goes up, breaks through at least like 8,000 and holds, breaks again. So like the ideal chart setup that I would want to see, if you were to take it off to 6, is something that kind of does that, where it bases at 8, then it lifts here. That's where I would start to get bullish. But I really expect this thing to wash out around 5,500, if not maybe lower. The trend that I see is something more protracted, slow down, until there is a use case. Bitcoin itself, its use case is that it's money. It's the internet money. Like with Ethereum, not Ethan Allen, Ethereum, there has to be use cases. And I think that's the whole thing that people don't look at too much, is there has to be a use behind whatever this is. If there's not a use case behind Ethereum, what's the point of buying it? Okay, you can get some cool like MLB crypto stuff. You can get CryptoKitties, which whatever. But my point of being is that these networks all went up in massive value last year because of what people would expect to be built on the network. I don't think Ethereum is going to go away. I think its price will continue to go lower and lower over the course of maybe a year and a half. But as far as a trading opportunity goes, it's getting at a very interesting point that, if this busts below 150 bucks, I'll be very interested for a possible double trade back to 300. But there's still not that big use case. And that's kind of the whole reason that I would even touch any specific crypto is, does it solve a problem? Is it easy to use? And will people be using it without realizing they're actually using it? That is the entire bull case for any crypto that is out there for me. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to leave a comment or whatever. Reach out to me on Twitter.